Hello my dear gardeners! Peggy Martin rose, hybrid multiflora rose, a beautiful climber in my garden. It's a springtime, beautiful beginning of March, sun is shining, garden is gorgeous. But is this the time to prune old garden roses? Let's find out. Let's attend to my Peggy Martin rose. So classical rules of pruning roses would be roses which are blooming through the season, so they repeat their blooms. We do the pruning at the beginning of spring when roses are still in dormant stage and they are ready to push leaves out and the danger of severe frost is over. But with majority of old garden roses, and Peggy Martin is this unknown old garden rose, which are blooming only once a year. For us it would be at the beginning of June. The golden rule is to prune and address issues with the rose at the end of the blooming cycle. So it would be somewhere at the end of June for me. And I have to state that some southern gardeners tell me that their Peggy Martin blooms once more at the end of the blooming season. For me, here in Connecticut, Peggy Martin bloomed only once last year. And this rose is only 3 years old. This is the third year, so performance would be marvelous this year. The thing about old garden roses, they do not want to be disturbed by human intervention. They can take care of themselves, and it shows. My Peggy Martin didn't lose a single stem. All the stems are nice and healthy, no spots, no dieback, nothing. So why do we have to think? We have to have this personal approach to every rose when we do the trimming and pruning. So why do we prune in spring? Because we want to address the issue of dieback, of diseased wood. We want to get rid of all that stuff. For example, on my Generous Gardener, the third year stems are completely spent. They are full of diseases, and it would be a good thing to control that spreading of diseases with the help of pruning in spring. This is not the reason why we would prune Peggy Martin. Peggy Martin doesn't get diseased. So why would we prune Peggy Martin? Maybe to control their height, because this rose is extremely vigorous, so it will eat the house if you will let this rose do it. And we control the old wood. Some people say, and it didn't happen to me yet, that old wood ages quickly on Peggy Martin. So first 2 or 3 years, we leave Peggy Martin alone. We don't do anything to it. And then we prune only to control the height or the size if we need to, and we prune to take out the dead wood. We don't prune Peggy Martin to control the diseases. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Since Peggy Martin is almost thornless variety, it's a pleasure to work with those canes. So as you can see here, we have here a main cane, we are talking about the climber, and then we have laterals. And the laterals already are, you see those beautiful buds are turning into leaves soon. And since Peggy Martin has these unsightly spent hips, I'm going to trim them out. And you know what, if my Peggy Martin would be super huge, I probably wouldn't be doing it. Probably these unsightly hips would be buried by under beautiful foliage in spring. But this Peggy Martin is here near the table where we have our dinners, so I'm going to spend some time and make sure that my rose has all her side shoots well trimmed. And sometimes the side shoot, right, so this is the main stem here, the side shoot can turn into a long secondary main stem, and if you don't want to keep it, you can cut it right here. But in my case, you see where I let it go all the way to this area here, and it's pretty long all the way down there, and I want to keep it, so I let it grow and directed it into that space to meet my Generous Gardener rose. But otherwise, if you don't want to keep those side shoots, just trim them no matter how long they are. My Peggy Martin is growing here in a quite tough situation. It's fairly close to the house. It is shady in spring because sun didn't get high enough to get here to this corner of my garden. So this area here has a tendency to get black spot, which is unusual. Peggy Martin is very tough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean this area from future stems, not from future leaves. So I will just trim all these stems here to make sure my Peggy Martin has somewhat of a better circulation here, and the area here is not congested. Okay, this will be bare, right? Some people don't like when the bottom of their roses are bare. I don't mind. This area needs to be healthy because I don't want black spot to start growing here. So I deliberately cut all the small growth out here, and it depends on your rose what you want to do. Here the situation commands it, but otherwise, if you like your rose to have nice bushy growth at the bottom, you don't do that to your rose. Okay, this spindly stem will have to go. And I don't even think there would be flowers here down here. Sun barely comes here so close. Alright, so that's it. All stems are clean, no hips. Rose is ready to grow. The next step would be I'm going to take all the old foliage off, clean it up, throw it into the garbage. As you can see, it's a fairly new rose, young rose. So the bottom line is when you have young Peggy Martin up to 3 years, you leave it alone. You don't do anything to it unless you have to severely control the size of it. But then why would you plant such a big climber in your garden if you cannot afford the space, right? So Peggy Martin is happily growing here. Maybe next year I will take this old stem out. This is the oldest stem here. But for now, leaves are down. I'm going to collect everything, throw it into the garbage, and my Peggy Martin is good to go. My dear gardeners, please subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Hopefully, I will be trimming my Generous Gardener, and there are several of them. One well established and another one in somewhat awkward location at the back of my garden. See you. Happy gardening.